Hello everyone and welcome to the webinar. Today's topic, Unisys Data Exchange 5.0. Dive into data. Let's get started. Our first speaker for you today is Arun Ravindran. He's a product manager for Unisys ClearPath Forward. And with that, Arun, the audience is yours.
Thank you, Matt. Hi everyone, welcome to the release presentation for Unisys Data Exchange 5.0. The webinar would be focused on the topic of dive into data, and I'm excited to present this release to you because it contains a lot of new exciting features that you have been asking for. In the next 50 minutes, we would be taking you through the product overview. We'd be talking about the Data Exchange product roadmap to show you what's in store for you in the future. And then Mike would take you through the release highlights in more detail, in covering some of the technical aspects. And then Navneet would take you through the product services. The last 10 minutes would be for an open Q&A where you can ask your questions which were not answered in the chat. So let me start off by setting the context in the age of data that we live in today. Many of our organizational initiatives, such as machine learning, digital, mobility, business analytics, or even new ones like blockchain, are powered by enormous volumes of data. In fact, data has become so valuable that it's called data is the new oil. So the judicious use of data and how you can integrate different aspects of your organization's data inflows has become crucial. And we are going to talk about how Data Exchange is going to enable you to do that. Let me show you how different verticals or industries are making use of data and why suddenly there has been a very recent surge in the interest of data. Let's talk about retirees or people who are looking at long time healthcare services. New business models based on how their new insurance products are actually being developed on various aspects of their health data, such as biometrics and lifestyle related information, which is being collated through various devices such as fitness trackers. In the field of logistics, various IoT devices and large databases are being integrated to achieve what is called as hyperscale matching, so that you can track exactly where your package is at any point in time. In the field of retail, we are trying to integrate various sources of data so that we can get 360-degree view of the customer, which leads us to radical personalization. In the field of retail again, or banking, we have point of sale systems and payment systems which enable massive scale integration. In the field of bioinformatics and genomics, new products or new drugs are being developed through data-driven discovery. In smart cities, we are using data to enhance our decision making so that our response times to disasters and urgent emergencies are much faster. So here are some of the warning signs that stale data is holding you back. What do I mean by stale data? Depending on the context, stale data could mean a few seconds or even a couple of minutes. If you are a high frequency trader, a few seconds or even microseconds of delay can mean loss, a huge financial loss. Sometimes even on the social media, a few second early action can prevent that viral message from spreading widely. Now, these are the signs that your data might be stale. Your KPIs are no longer relevant. You can't get your hands on real-time data. Your stockholders might be having questions that you cannot answer, or your IT department is being hit with a lot of requests for reporting that they are not ready with. This leads to a vicious cycle. Reports can lead to more detailed questions, which lead to even more reports ad infinitum. Now, what does all this mean for our ClearPath Forward clients? If you're able to leverage data more efficiently, you can lead to more operational efficiencies. Imagine if your high volume ClearPath transaction information is available to the rest of your organization, leading to a more accurate and near real time replica of information. This improves operational efficiency dramatically. Sometimes you might have an artificial intelligence or machine learning based technology, which might lead you to faster or better decision making abilities than what was previously possible only after days or even weeks of analytical analysis. Finally, this can lead to new products and services, as we saw earlier, which might lead you to better revenue models. Unisys Data Exchange is the key in enabling ClearPath Forward to participate in all these industry trends. Let me tell you what Unisys Data Exchange is at a very high level. It is a data integration software that helps organizations to use data to integrate business processes with ClearPath Forward databases like DMS2 or RDMS. It also enables your organizations to acquire data from production systems for use by reporting, business intelligence, or digital and big data applications. Some of its features are: Data Exchange targets new and existing databases. In other words, you don't have to create a new replica or a new database each time you run Data Exchange. Data Exchange intelligently updates an existing database just as well. Data Exchange has the ability to do transformations. This means that data can be transformed on the fly into a form that your target application might need, which might be completely different from the way the data is stored in your source database. Selective. By this, I mean that Data Exchange enables you to change data flexibly and filtered in a way that you don't have to take the entire data which you extract into your target databases. Next, Data Exchange is bidirectional. It's not just ClearPath data is not just your source, it can also be your target. Open databases can be used as your source and could be fed back into your ClearPath databases as well. And finally, Data Exchange does not require any programming knowledge. An end user can just drag and drop the interface and make complex transformations. The key aspect here to notice is that we do not require the ClearPath application code to be changed. And a data-based integration is what Data Exchange enables you to do, and it also supports a bidirectional flow to support engagement. These are some of the supported transformations that we have today. Unisys DMS2 to SQL Server or Oracle database, and back from Unisys DMS2 to Microsoft SQL Server. We also support the OS 2200 database Unisys RDMS to Oracle as well as SQL Server. And in this release, we are proud to introduce Kafka as our new targets. So Unisys DMS2 to Kafka and Unisys RDBMS to Kafka are two of our new transformations. To those of us who do not know, Apache Kafka is used for building real-time data pipelines and streaming applications. It's horizontally scalable, fault-tolerant, wicked fast, and runs in production for thousands of companies. In fact, we find that most of our clients have already used Apache Kafka to a good effect. This is a very high-level overview of some of the key capabilities that Data Exchange has. Data Exchange primarily operates in two modes: bulk data transfer and change data transfer. Bulk data transfer prepares all your data for moving to the source, from the source to the destination. It is more important in use cases where the elapsed time is more sensitive, and you don't have to do this very frequently. This is a very common form of transferring information from a database to another database. Change data transfer is where data exchange really shines. It only moves the change data. This saves multiple bulk data transfers and operates in a near real-time movement. Combine this with a data pipeline like Apache Kafka, and you have a near real-time view of what is happening in your ClearPath Forward application to all other parts of your organization. Finally, Data Exchange supports data transformations, which means you can restructure your data, transform values, and perform validations. Now, most of us already have some sort of a script or a homegrown solution for integrating different applications or databases. Data Exchange goes above and beyond that. So this shows that the kind of applications you can build with Data Exchange would be more featureful and resilient. The use cases in which data exchange is used can be divided into two major categories: operational, which is latency sensitive, and analytical, which is volume sensitive. Many of our clients or organizations are embarking a digitization initiative. This could mean something like a mobility-based initiative, or this could be changing from a traditional route to a more digital route of doing their business. Data Exchange helps you by handling that volume of additional workload that comes to your organization, as well as in many different ways. Data Exchange also helps you with fraud detection. Imagine you have detected a fraudulent activity from your transaction logs. Data Exchange, in combination with Kafka, can actually perform a real-time action against that fraudulent activity by performing what we call as fast data, which is a similar trend to big data. Additionally, you saw that Data Exchange can be used for real-time integration as well as for risk mitigation. Now, on the other side, Data Exchange helps you do large volume analytical processing. This helps you build business intelligence at a scale that was not possible earlier. It also helps you with compliance reporting and an omni-channel view of the customer. All your marketing channels can now be integrated in a way that was not possible before. In combination with Apache Kafka and Hadoop and the entire ecosystem of big data tools, you can build massive scale applications that were not possible earlier on open systems. These are some of our best practices that we recommend that our clients could follow when they are building applications around Data Exchange. We recommend that you use ClearPath Forward systems as your primary system of record. Please ensure that you're not sharing you are only sharing the required amount of data that is needed to be shared through transformations. This is also a security best practice. In addition to supporting systems of engagement and big data analytics, we recommend you do not change your system of record. This is a brief case study of a leading bank that is using Data Exchange in production, as several of our clients are. They were trying to handle the additional load which was caused by one of their digitization initiatives, which required mobile account balances to be offloaded. But the challenge they were facing was they were not able to get near real-time updates to their balances. Now, with Data Exchange, they can transform and transfer up to 1,000 updates per second with an average delay of 5 seconds for 1.5 million accounts. This was a scale that was not possible previously before. We found that Data Exchange provides them not only near real-time transfers, but it also improves their recovery time over their existing solution. Now you see that we are on Data Exchange 5.0 release. A couple of months back, we sent out a notice to all our existing clients that we are slowly ending Data Exchange 3.0 support. And today is the day when we announce that to the wider audience. Please remember that Data Exchange 5.0 was released, the FCSA was completed, and you can order it today. Next year, we would be releasing Data Exchange 6.0 at the end of 2019, and followed by Data Exchange 7.0 in 2020. What I would like to focus here is that we are trying to create a very regular cadence when it comes to releases, and keep ourselves listening to our customers to incorporate as many features as you are requesting. That brings me to the end of my part. Now over to you, Mike.
Thanks, Arun. I'm Mike Harvey. I'm the Data Exchange Architect. In this part of the presentation, I'm going to cover some of the higher level features available in Data Exchange 5.0. Many of these came from NFSs from existing customers. The major new component is the Data Exchange Management Studio. It's a new component. Its primary purpose is to manage role-based security within the Data Exchange environment. In addition, clients can now install multiple unique versions of Data Exchange components on the same server or partition. Kafka brokers are a new target for DMS2 and RDMS. System variables are now made available to your expressions during the transformation processing. There are usability improvements in DDW. There is more control at runtime over how a transformation should behave when an error is encountered, for example, duplicates violations. There's also a section here on performance improvements, and I'll go show you some of the internal metrics from our performance analysis work, and also guide you support. For those of you familiar with Data Exchange, this diagram illustrates the topology of where DEMS resides. DDW, the Data Exchange Development Workbench, and the runtime components all talk to DEMS for security authorizations. DEMS has its own SQL Server database where it stores roles and privileges as defined by our customer. DEMS provides the mechanism to restrict which users can install other Data Exchange Windows components as well. The DEMS security service is invoked by various user actions. For instance, DEMS dictates whether a user is allowed to deploy, stop, or start a transformation. Whilst previous releases of Data Exchange targeted data stores that were database managers, DMS2, SQL Server, and Oracle, this release allows our clients to define messages that would be delivered to a topic on a Kafka broker. The DE runtime service becomes a Kafka producer. Just going to DEMS in a little more detail because it's a new component. It's an independent component of Data Exchange, and it is installed separately and first. DEMS lets you define who can do what and where. It's a management center used to define user access to different Data Exchange components, such as DDW and the administration site. In addition, restrictions can be defined as to who can install other Data Exchange Windows components. DEMS also provides security settings for secure data transfer. You can choose whether to support secure data transfer among the Data Exchange Windows components, and if so, what certificates should be used to enable that. In the sample diagram on the right, there are 3 Windows partitions. In partition 1, 2 versions of Data Exchange components are installed. In partition 2, only one DDW is installed, with a future yet to be released, 6.0.10. In partition 3, DEMS is installed here, and the version is the same as the latest version. From the diagram, you can see DEMS is now the management center of the Data Exchange components, as the other DE components, when installed, specify this DEMS instance as their management component. Most of the communication to DEMS is either from DDW or the runtime administration site, validating user actions against its roles and privileges. However, the runtime service also connects to DEMS on startup to fetch some security settings, and that's indicated by the dotted lines. At the moment, DEMS is implemented as the management center for user access control, but in future releases, we plan to grow DEMS to manage more aspects of data exchange. There are a number of new concepts. We have the environment. Environment is a virtual concept of one version or a group of multiple versions of data exchange. It helps you to label an installation and use data exchange for a particular purpose. You can name an environment anything you like, production, test, or even Fred. A security profile is a set of configurations that indicates whether secure network communication should be enabled among the data exchange internal Windows components. And if so, the required certificates are attached to the profile. A security profile either has the secure connection enabled or disabled. Sometimes we use the term SSL or TLS in the product and documentation to mean secure connections. Different SSL-enabled profiles can have different certificates attached to them. A role is a set of privileges that define what tasks a user with this role can perform. The privileges correspond to the operations available in data exchange. For example, to edit a transformation, to run a transformation, or to install DDW. You can create roles based on your team and what their responsibilities are in using data exchange. The roles can be used in different environments for different users. The user or group here stands for who operates in data exchange. It could be an individual user or a group of users from the local server or from the domain. These users or groups should already exist in the local server or domain. DEMS does not create these users or groups. DEMS uses the Active Directory to create mappings of the users or groups that you want to manage the data exchange environments. By associating the environment, role, and user group together, you can achieve the goal to manage who can do what and where in data exchange. This diagram illustrates the flexibility data exchange offers to you as far as installation is concerned. We have two environments here, named test and production, sharing physical machines. Inside each environment, there are two versions of data exchange components. These components are spread over 6 Windows partitions. As previously mentioned, environment is a virtual concept. It is not tightly coupled with the underlying physical partitions. In other words, the DE components are not restricted to be installed on certain hardware for them to be in a virtual environment. The security profile and user accesses are both bound to an environment, so DE components are required to communicate and work only with the other DE components that are in the same environment. In addition, as you've seen in this diagram, the partitions are grouped into 2 sets, one for testing purposes and another for production. You may have installed one DEMS and created 2 environments to manage all these partitions. Alternatively, you may have installed 2 DEMS, one for the test environment and another for the production environment, so that the DE components are entirely isolated. The next feature I'm going to talk a little bit about is Apache Kafka. With Apache Kafka, we define a target message format to DDW via XSD. So we create the definition of what we want the messages to look like when they're delivered to the Kafka broker. We use XSD. XSD is an industry standard for describing structures. We implemented a feature because it's a little tedious to create these by hand, but we implemented a feature in DDW that can generate an XSD definition based on any existing DMS2 or RDMS schema in your repository. And you can edit that file as you will and then import it back into DDW. Once it's there, you are able to do the normal schema, the mappings between your source classifier and features to these targets. Once that is done, you can deploy your transformation. Before the transformation can be started, we need to provide several Kafka configuration settings, as Data Exchange is acting as a Kafka producer. You'll see on the bottom here the Kafka cluster address. The Bootstrap server configuration provides the Kafka cluster. It tells Data Exchange where the Kafka messages should be published. The value of this setting is the broker's host name or IP address and the port number. Next, we have the topic. Topic is the name of the data store in the Kafka cluster. The topic must have previously been configured in Kafka. There are a number of specific Kafka settings that you must enter, including the security SSL setting. Additional Kafka options can also be specified here. So as you can see, this is quite an easy way to start streaming your data into a Kafka broker. There's not a lot of complexity to this. Okay, for those clients who must adhere to the GDPR regulations, Release 5 ensures that we can now encrypt user data in motion throughout the Data Exchange environment. This necessitated our removal of a number of software pieces that we did have dependencies on. They were specifically OLADB and Microsoft's message queuing MSMQ. Their host networking components on the ClearPath did not support SSL or TLS. We replaced these components with AIS. AIS we're using for the intercomponent networking with the ClearPath hosts. AIS provides the TLS features that we required. The client can now choose whether or not ClearPath data leaves the host database or the audit trails unencrypted. This diagram is here to show you the movement of data over the networks. The lock icons are there to indicate to you where we now support encryption. So no user data now has to traverse any network, be it private or public, in an unencrypted state. So we have encryption going from the source, the 2200 RDMS, DMS2, and SQL Server, and going through the runtime service to our targets, which can also be encrypted. There is also the transformations, the communication between the administrative service and the runtime service. Those transformations are also encrypted. These are all optional settings, but now it's up to the client to decide which ones that they require. This slide is showing you what happens when you're using the change data transformation. Once again, the small lock icons here are indicating which particular movement of data is encrypted. You will see here that DEMS is involved as the administration site will talk to DEMS to see that whoever is trying to stop a transformation has the appropriate privileges. The administration site provides the user interface to the client for DEMS privileges control. In here you can see the DMS2 and RDMS sources can target SQL Server, Oracle, and now the Kafka broker through a TLS encrypted, if configured, connection. SQL Server sources can target DMS2 also through TLS encrypted connection, and that's done by AIS. We have, I mentioned previously, some DDW enhancements. The first one I'm going to talk about here are system variables. So you can see here there's quite an extensive list, and more will come, and I'm sure many customers will ask for even more as releases go. This gives you access in your transformation to certain information about your environment, such as what was the name of my data set? What was the name of my RDMS table where this data came from? What's the DML command that caused this data to come through? What's the name of the source host? All this information is now available to you inside the runtime environment. So your expressions can now reference this information, and you can do some interesting things with it. One that has been asked quite a lot is for a logical delete. So we have the ability to do DML command substitution inside our transformations. So if the source was a delete, we can change that to be an update command, and you can see here some of the expression coding here that you can reference what the DML command type, and if it was a delete, then update this field to X, otherwise U or I, depending if it was an update or not. So there's quite a lot of flexibility now with you being able to implement some of these features. The other interesting component about this is that it gives you the ability now to your existing transformations to extend those to even do some of your own auditing of what's been happening to your data as it's come through the data exchange. So for instance, you might be able to want to track to a Kafka broker all sorts of information about when this update happened, what was the major key, what was the command that caused it to change. You might even want to look at these things for doing event stores. So there's a lot of capability now coming into Data Exchange to give you more flexibility. So that's just some food for thought for you. The RSN is also now available to you. That's been requested from many customers. This is now available in 5.0 for the extended edition and the non-extended. Right, there's some new functionality here in the classifier map designer where you can do searches that is being requested by customers, and here's just a little snapshot here of looking for all your classifiers in your classifier map that has the SALES, and you'll see there that you've got there's two listed here, and you can move between them using the arrows here on the right. Another request was for importing a transformation as new, whereas we used to export, and when you import it would overwrite the existing one. You now have the option to import as a new transformation. And more usability features appear in when you're doing validations of your transformation. You can see here now that we allow you to filter out based on particular transformation names what all the alerts and errors and warnings were. So this is a usability improvement. Another request that has come into us that's implemented in 5.0 is an expansion of Data Exchange runtime behavior when an error is encountered. You now have the option for when you're writing to the targets, whether it's a primary key violation or a foreign key violation, and you get to specify, well, ignore this and log it, or stop, right? And there are deadlock errors. There's all sorts of things like this that now you have a bit more control of. Before we used to stop, and you pretty much were stopped until you did quite a bit of investigation as to why you might have a duplicates violation. So now this is just giving you more flexibility in your transformation processing. And also there are new logs captured, so you can identify which keys of which records caused whatever the violation may have been. So this was something that also came in from customers who were wanted a bit more flexibility in how Data Exchange worked. There's some miscellaneous features, enhanced auto map functions in DDW. You can now use some regular expressions to identify the names that you want to auto map. Better support for DMS2 and group occurs. Gaiji support, and also some support for SQL Server memory optimized tables as a transformation target. I'm just going to go through a few of the things that have happened here with our performance. We've done quite a lot of work in the performance area. We have a number of transformations, and they're growing, that we've developed for doing performance analysis. Some of these have mimicked what we've seen at customer sites with respect to number of classifiers and feature data types, as well as expressions and user-defined functions. Every customer is different, and the complexity of their data is different, and the complexity of their processing is different. So the numbers I'm showing here are primarily to show you that we've done quite a bit of work. For DMS2, we spent a lot of time in this release looking at our scalability, and we've had some significant improvements here in scalability. And you can see here for DMS2 to Oracle bulk data transfer with 8 threads, we've done quite well. So I just wanted to give you some idea of the work that's been going on. As I said, our main things that we've concentrated on are scalability and making sure we're doing the most optimal processing and CPU usage and memory. Some of these performance improvements have been retrofitted back into 4.0, so you will see those in some of the ICs that you should see some improvement in performance. For RDMS, we also have improved the performance, and you can see here, not to the same extent for some of the DMS2 ones, but we've done quite well here as well. And that's an ongoing task in all of our development cycles. So I think that's probably all from me. So I'll pass that back to Navneet. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Hello, everyone. I am Navneet Kumar, Product Manager for ClearPath Forward Services. In this section of presentation, I am going to talk about various data exchange services at your disposal and benefits you can derive out of these services. As you can see in the slide, we have a comprehensive services portfolio for data exchange. To help you with data exchange journey, we have assessment service, installation and configuration service, proof of concept service, implementation service, and administrator training service. I will elaborate each one of these in coming slides. We have defined assessment service to acquaint you with data exchange features, differentiators, value proposition, and benefits. We will explain how to use data exchange as a data integration solution. We will also understand your requirements, assess your databases and applications, and do holistic assessment of suitability of data exchange in your environment. As a deliverable of the service, we would also share assessment report with findings and recommendations. As part of installation and configuration service, we will install data exchange software on your ClearPath MCP or OS 2200 platform. Some of the key activities performed under this service are verification of environment preparations, installation of all the data exchange components, creation of the sample database and sample schema, creation of the transformation in data exchange developers workbench, deployment of the transformation, BDT of the sample historical data, execution of the sample change data transformation CDT, and validation of the results. Installation is performed on a non-production environment, and it provides an operating data exchange environment for a simple transformation for evaluation purpose. Proof of concept service. So before committing to data exchange, you would want to be reasonably confident that data exchange software will be compatible with your IT infrastructure portfolio and provide the desired value. The proof of concept service lets you study the feasibility and the potential of data exchange and show how it can address your specific requirement and business needs. The proof of concept will show how data exchange can replicate and continually synchronize data from your source database with a destination database. This service will also vet any potential transformation issues using samples of your actual data. It may also flesh out any special requirements for deployment in your production environment. So why proof of concept service makes sense? Rapidly visible results would help you in decision making and in identifying areas needing special attention. You can leverage your existing ClearPath investments and see if data exchange would be a good fit for you or not. As part of implementation service, we take a successful proof of concept, complete all the required transformation definitions, and deploy the solution into a production environment. Some of the key activities involved in this service are designing the deployment strategy for the production environment, designing transformations of your databases, conducting bulk data transformation and changed data transformation, validating correct operation of bulk data transformation and change data transformation, providing best practices and performance optimizations as needed. By leveraging this service, you will have access to the top level expertise and best practices gained from guiding numerous implementation projects around the globe. Through this service, you will be able to minimize time and cost to implement and accelerate your time to market for new business requirements. Administrator Training Service. Unisys provides several courses to train your associates to effectively use the unique features and capabilities of data exchange. For example, we have courses addressing various areas such as how to define, start, and monitor data transformation, how to operate and maintain data exchange, etc. Training service will enable data exchange skill development and product training with best practices, tips, and techniques. Our training content is developed, refined, and delivered by technical consultants who have real-world experience gained by working with Unisys clients in one of the world's largest organizations. So we have discussed 5 data exchange services, but if you need help with any other service, we will be glad to work with you and address your requirement. To summarize, I will briefly touch upon why Unisys will be a right partner for your IT needs related to ClearPath and data exchange. In Unisys, you are engaging with a partner that developed the system in its R&D center and thus able to offer implementation and upgrade of the IT system in an optimal and predictable manner. We have best practices and assets to assist in different stages of implementation. We guide our clients through the journey of maximizing value that Data Exchange provides. With this, services section of presentation is over. I will now hand over to Arun for concluding remarks. Over to you, Arun.
Thanks, Navneet. So I'd like to take you through some of the resources that you can use to learn more about Data Exchange. So on our Data Exchange page at unisys.com, you can find various information about the product, such as the product information sheet. We also have a very updated YouTube channel in which we have a Data Exchange playlist, which contains videos about Data Exchange. You can also access the Data Exchange Information Center. And more importantly, you can ask your sales representative about Data Exchange 5.0, and they would be happy to describe what's new and more importantly, how you could leverage Data Exchange for your needs. We hope you found this discussion useful. Now I open the stage for more questions.
Excellent. Thank you, Arun. That does bring us to the Q&A portion of the presentation. Again, if you have questions for our presenters, you can send those across using the question box on the lower right-hand side of the control panel. With that, we'll go ahead and get started with the first questions that have come across. Arun, the first question I had is, what types of SQL does runtime services send to the target database?
Mike, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, so there are a few options. We generate SQL statements for SQL Server, or if we can also optionally, instead of doing that, we can create a stored procedure and call the stored procedure passing parameters across. And from a performance perspective, it really depends on the speed of your network or which one you want to do. So that's probably something you'd want to test. Similarly for Oracle, we can generate SQL statements or anonymous batch. And once again, that's from our performance testing. It's up to you which one you want to use, which will give you the best performance.
Excellent. Thank you. The next question I have is, how do you measure performance?
I guess I'll take that one. In Data Exchange, we have quite an extensive list of perfmon counters that you can actually use in Windows when you're doing Windows monitoring. So there are things that are specific to the internals of the Data Exchange runtime service, but there are things there like counts of how many transformations processed per second, how many SQL statements were executed per second on the target. There's quite an extensive list there, and they are documented for you, so you can keep you can see the performance of your runtime service as it's running in real time.
And the next question we have is, you said DE runtime server is a Kafka producer. Where is the Kafka consumer?
Okay, so we don't provide the consumer for you because we don't know what you want to do with the messages that we're delivering. We have in our release, there's some examples there of Kafka consumers, what you might want to do with them. There's some examples there and some samples. The samples that we have for you to have a look at is using Cassandra to dump data into a Cassandra database, and that's there's a sample Kafka consumer, I think, written in Python. I think there's another one there using Clojure, and I think there was one of the services people who did that. There are a few of them floating around. As part of the product itself, we generate, DDW will generate for you C# and or Java classes for you to use in your consumers to retrieve the data out of the messages that are being delivered to the Kafka topic. So there is quite a few things there that to help you write your own Kafka consumer. It's very dependent on what you want to do with the data that you're getting, but you can look at some of the samples that come with the installation.
And here's an additional question for you, Mike. Any key in from command line to start CDT?
No.
Excellent. Next question I have for you is, will Data Exchange recover if there is a failure when submitting messages to the Kafka broker?
Yeah, so we do recover to the point we assume when a message has been successfully delivered to the Kafka broker, that's the equivalent in our world of the data being committed. We don't know what happens after that. So if there is some sort of error that occurs during that processing phase and Data Exchange restarts, it will go back and resubmit any data up to the point where it considered it hadn't received a response to its sending of data. So yes, from our perspective, we treat the sending of data to the Kafka queue as a commit if we get a successful send. I don't know if you noticed some of the details on one of the screens I had, one of the shots there. There were some acknowledgement settings. One of those settings was to the lead broker or to all replicas. So if you have those settings to all replicas, we wouldn't get notification that our data had actually got there until all replicas had told us that it had been secured. So commit has a few different meanings for Kafka based on those settings.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike. That is going to be all the time that we have for questions today. We want to be respectful of everyone's time here, and I still want to give Arun just a moment for some closing remarks. So if we didn't get to all of your questions during the live session, we will follow up with you directly via email. With that, Arun, do you have any closing statements for the audience?
Sure. I'd like to thank everyone who helped us with this presentation, including Mike and Navneet and all the panelists who are answering your questions over chat. I'd like to thank you, Matt, as well for hosting this. We always are listening to your feedback and comments. So if you feel that there are some improvements to the product that you feel should be there in the next release or in the future, please let us know. We'd be happy to discuss this with you. Please contact your sales representative and we'll take it forward from there. Thank you so much for your time.
Excellent. Thank you, Arun. And again, don't forget, we will be posting this video, making it available in the ClearPath YouTube channel in the Data Exchange playlist. Again, thank you everyone for attending, and have a great day.